having a fantastic weekend. I know I am having a fantastic weekend. In case you have not heard, little Miss Chandalier went out and dropped a nasty 10-0 Ocho at about 133 miles an hour on the track. She was absolutely running tip-top. Did the whole thing on 93 Octane too, so there's that. I made a video a little bit earlier today, and I was trying to answer some questions. Some of the questions I had actually basically deleted out of that feed. And the reason why I deleted a lot of those questions is, number one, or comments too, question/comment. One, I wasn't going to get into some argy-bargy with somebody, especially on this topic. The second thing is, if you're going to make a comment and say, congratulations, that's great. But when somebody says, hey, congratulations, my car is faster than yours, but great job. Really? Like, do you know how that sounds? You know how that comes across? Anyway, there was a little bit of that. Look, thank you for the kind words. Catalyst, did you remove your sway bar? Anyway, one of the things that I noticed, a lot of people were really curious as far as how deep did my weight reduction program go on that car. And quite frankly, I thought that was pretty absurd. I mean, my gosh, had anybody only been watching the channel for any meaningful length of time, right? Anyway, you know what I'm getting at. So at any rate, I just basically wanted to touch on that, but I also wanted to share with you guys some of the things that I was talking about in the video. I wanted to get a little bit more in depth. Part of that is going to be in tuning. So I got the computer all fired up. We're going to be going over timing tables and why extremely low DA, especially when you're fuel limited. More to the point, when the fuel that you're using is knock limited. When it doesn't really sometimes do you a whole lot of favors for the DA to get real low, like ultra mine shaft. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them about the car, the pass. Weight, I think, was just shy of 4,400 pounds. Exxon 93 Octane, which is where I usually get gas. If you saw the video earlier, you'll know the setup of the car, but the only prep that I do to the car is basically to get the car on the same level playing field as a one-seat 1320 or a one-seat Demon. I do run a drag pack wheel and tire setup. The Demon comes with skinnies. The Demon comes with an 18-inch wheel with drag radials. So, I'm not too far removed from that. Again, a lot of the stuff is still stock. The brakes are stock, heavy. Bumper supports are still in place from the factory, just like they were in the Demon and the 1320. It's why I haven't replaced them. It's why I won't replace them. Heavy. What else? Oh, the sway bar. Getting to the sway bar. Honestly, that's been the weirdest one. And I think the reason why it's such a weird thing is because a lot of guys are more old school when it comes to drag racing. And back in the day, it was unhook the sway bar, and some guys would still leave it on the car. Some cars, it was just not really all that easy to remove the sway bar. I don't know which one that would have been. But anyway, they would just disconnect the thing. And they would run limiting straps so they didn't overextend the shocks. When the car launched, it would just yank the front up in the air. Well, that's okay, fine. But my car dead hooks with the sway bar attached in the stock location. So I don't really need to get into too much of like why I wouldn't remove it, because if it dead hooks with the thing on the car, the only thing I'd be saving is weight. And that goes against the rules that I've kind of got self-imposed on this, which is to emulate a one-seat car. Basically, in this case, the Demon, but the 1320 could suffice as well for you guys that are running scat packs. You're trying to capture a number. Do your thing. First of all, don't let me tell you what to do. If you want to put lightweight bumper supports on it, no bumper supports, stuff made out of ramen noodles, I don't care what you do with your car. but I felt like it was necessary for me to put these rules in place for me because I was watching demons go down the track running 1020s. I was on 93 octane. I was watching, this is in some like weather. I would watch demons go down the track on 93 octane running maybe 10 teens. So it was, I wanted my car to be able to do demon stuff without actually having to buy a demon. Granted, if I put the thing on race gas, it'd be a completely different story. I could do a lot of things with timing and all of that. If my aunt had a package, she'd be my uncle. That's not the point. Doing all this on 93 octane. So let me catch up with you guys real quickly, and then I'll get into some of the reasons why. And I'm going to be showing primarily timing tables. I'll be showing timing tables for an NA combination, and then I'll be showing timing tables for the Hellcat. And you'll start to get a picture of what I'm talking about, I think, pretty quickly once I start to illustrate this. But let me catch up with you guys. Michael Corleone is first in, got the flex. I like it. What's up, man? Hope you're doing good. Kobe's in. What's up, man? Remove front sway bar. Yep. No. Chuck saying, good evening. Bruce saying, good evening. Father Mopar. Got the hang loose. I like it. Kobe saying, how are the shift points? You don't have to say if you don't want. They're all over the board. Each gear's got its own shift number. And by the way, each gear has its own shift number, and I've got rev limits and everything in place to ensure that I don't have any issues with predictive shift algorithms and things like that. So I'm not going to I cannot give the baby out with the bathwater on this, but I will tell you that there's nothing really crazy about what I do with shift points at all, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, I'm a lot more conservative than what you may have heard of or heard was the norm in the past. If you've ever seen any of my data logs, when I do a flip screen, you'll know exactly where I'm at. It's actually less than some factory settings for red eyes and demons. But again, I change it for every gear. And the reason why I do that is just where the RPM falls. I'm not worried about, that just flew in my mouth. What the hell was that? Anyway, I'm not worried about what the RPM is at the shift point. I'm looking specifically at where the RPM falls to. Oh, and so here's the other thing. The way that the transmission shift pattern is, don't forget, you are not commanding the shift at that RPM. The shift is to be completed by that RPM. Just letting you know, don't forget that. Hemiad saying, hey B, congrats on getting a 10.0X. That's awesome. What was the DA? DA was negative 1,300. However, y'all got to remember the car has gone a 1010 in basically negative 300. So why is it that, negative 1,300, wow, that sounds really good. No, I would have much rather had negative 300 to 500 with the dry air that we had rather than the negative 1,300 that we had with the dry air. Created some issues, and I'm going to show you guys that here in just a minute. In fact, I've got the computer, the stuff's already pulled up, ready to go, and I'm going to show you why that is here in just a second, once I catch in with everybody. Steven Zinn saying, evening B, what's up? Bruce, it's only a matter of time before you hit nines. Literally shocking the world with how you're achieving all this. Man, I'll be honest with you. I don't know. I mean, it sounds great. It's a nice goal for a 9-second pass, but you got to remember that to get a 9-second pass at this stage of the game, the only way that I will be able to do it is if I personally go on a significant diet and cut a lot of weight. I'm not removing the sway bar. I'm not putting aftermarket bumper supports in the car. I'm not putting aftermarket brakes on the car, which is something else. What brakes are you running? What brakes am I running? Shit, man, this is like 7-year-old rotors with stock calipers that I painted because they were turning pink, bruh. Ain't nothing fancy about that. Looked like I had a rolling Valentine's Day card in the works. So, and Anyway, stock heavy ass brakes are staying on the car. I'm not parts binning those. So the only thing I can do to cut weight, other than what I've done for the one seat configuration, and I know I am not going to run bias ply. That's another one that I forgot in the video that I did earlier today. I run radials all the way around the car. Yes, it's heavier. And yes, I run the D5s, which are lighter than Dark Stars, but not by much, but they are 100% street legit rims. I'm not running beer cans. I can drive this car on the setup that it's on wherever I want. I don't have to worry about denting, dinging, or oblonging a rim. It'll be fine. But no, I run SRs up front, radials out back. Yes, it's heavy, but the car is heavy and it needs the stability. So I forgot to touch on that, so I wanted to make sure that what in the hell? Something gets stuck in my face hair. I don't know. Anyway, I wanted to make sure I put that out there that you guys understood that no, I'm not cheating this weight down with bias plies or anything like that. Because I wanted it to be radials, because I wanted the safety and the stability of this thing going down the drag strip. So there you have it with that. I'm sure there's guys that would argue with me, no, you got to run bias ply, they're lighter. Yeah, they're lighter. That's great. I got 4,400 pounds worth of mass, which, by the way, has independent rear suspension. Things get squirrely with bias ply tires on independent rear suspension. Ask me how I know Vipers that I've taken down the drag strip and roll raced forever on old school ET streets. How I'm still alive sometimes bewilders me. The Z06, the Vet, was on bias plies, and that thing would do the freaking Watusi going down the track. Independent rear suspension cars and bias ply tires, typically not that great. You want the stability of the radial back there, especially when they're as heavy as these cars are. Cal said, a bit off topic, are solid lifter cams used anymore with 6.4 Crowder? Is all hydraulic? It's all hydraulic. I don't know of anybody making a solid lifter for those cams. Frankly, you don't really need it because the intake that you're using is not going to allow for the RPM that you would need to fully take advantage of the lifter that you got. I would like to see some lightweight lifters though, because the valve train, number one, is heavy and a Hemi. Number two, the geometry is, it's out there to say the least. So you've got to run some pretty significant spring pressure whenever you put a cam in the car. And realistically, a lot of guys I see really under spring and over cam the cars and ends up not doing all that great. So typically no, I should say. Now, if you go with the Sniper intake, I think Johnson makes a set of lifters, limited travel lifters that are pretty good. So I'd probably look into those as well as the Hellcat lifters from Dodge. Those typically do really well, but it's RPM really isn't your problem. You can spin these things to 7,000 RPM with a good set of springs, if not higher. But the reality is that you're going to be running a cam that's going to be, with that intake, if you really want to drag power out, it's going to be kind of a dog down low if you're really trying to stretch power up there. So given the RPM limits and the quality of lifters that you've got, not necessarily all that needed. Oh, Chuck said, I went from a 13.5 to a 13.0 just by watching your shifting and Foxy and on a tire. Very cool. Awesome. I love it. For me, 12s are my next goal. Maybe launch control improvement or maybe not possible in an RT shaker. It'd be tough. Tough, but not necessarily impossible. You would have to have the car lose some weight. Can we say, and have fun with the car or have the wife run the car? So for weight reduction. So that's part of the conversation or part of a conversation that I had actually had last night, but it's part of a video that I had done. And that's kind of real talk, honestly. I mean, I tripped the scales right at 220. My wife, 110 pounds, 115 at the most. It'd be like yanking 100 pounds out of the car. So there's always that option. Brian's asking, do you have a lightweight battery? Yes. So I did the review on the Archangel battery, and that video is in my review section playlist somewhere in there. And it's an awesome battery. It saves about 20 pounds. It's a true 94 chassis battery, though. It's not a Braille. The Braille battery, look, I'll put it to you like this. You and your buddy can play catch with the thing in the backyard. It weighs nothing. And the capacity would, it just doesn't have the milliamp hours that I think you would probably want for a car that you would take on trips. And you kind of have to rely on the battery. But to start the car, multiple starts, all that, Braille's just fine. I'm using the Archangel for a couple of reasons. One, it's what was available at the time. And two, it's got a lot of cold cranking amps. I think it's 1,200 cold cranking amps. It's got a lot of milliamp hours also, a lot of reserve capacity. So especially compared to a lead acid. And because when I go to the track, I'm running the cool down feature, especially during the warmer months, I needed a battery with a higher milliamp hour capacity. So it just so happens the only one I get my hands on that would fit in the chassis in the car was that Archangel battery. So it worked out great for me running the Taser cool down feature on the car. Again, I think it saved 20 or 25 pounds and was really good at running that cool down feature it would run it down long enough to where the ECU would just go to sleep eventually. But check that out. Cool battery. I think he's going to be up and running here, hopefully tail end of this year. Marcio's asking, can OEM red-eye rods withstand 1,000 horsepower? To the wheels? Yeah. Stock Hellcat rods can handle that with absolutely no problem too. But also tune dependent. You mess up a tune, you can always bend a rod. So there's that. Bad fuel quality, you can mess around and mess up a rod too with that. So it could be handling 1,000 horsepower just fine forever. Get a bad tank of gas, bad things happen. So yeah, 1,000 horsepower at the flywheel, do it all day long the rods wouldn't even know they're being run, honestly, at that power level. If you're talking to the rear wheels on a dyno jet, yep, no problem. If you're talking to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno, yep, no problem. And that's Hellcat or Red Eye, doesn't matter. Rick's saying, hey, B, got you on the 65-inch big screen. Congrats on the 1008. Ow, thank you very much, brother. Appreciate it. Jersey saying, what's up, everybody? Cal saying, are upgraded rocker arms something that's recommended along with a sniper kit or Stanky tie bars? No on the rockers. Rockers should be good. I always recommend the Stanky tie bars and collars. Main reason why is it just helps keep everything more locked in and solid. I always recommend PSI 15-16 springs, which is a pretty healthy spring, but you're going to need it because you've got a lot of mass that you're moving around with those big Hemi valves. Oh, Sovereign saying, hey, we just finished watching your 1008 undercar reveal. Great video. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, listen, speaking of that video, I apologize for the absolute abomination of an excuse for camera work on that. But I was filming it literally with this phone here. And when you're holding it like this and I can see myself and I'm talking, that's one thing, but I can't turn it and look and see what it's seeing. And so I actually thought it had a different view than what it did. So there's some things that I meant to show that didn't get the full show, but you get the idea. I'm trying to show everybody, look, this is what's going on. Oh, that's another one. So catalytic converters. Man, you'd pick up 1/10 and a half. You took those cats off the car. So now's a good time and I'm going to do this at a few times during the course of this. So yes, Chandalier went 1008. Speaking of stock catalytic converters, Orange Crush, Chris's car, full interior car on the same wheel and tire setup that I'm running, but full interior down to the floor mats. His car went a 1017. And that's another car that I tuned. And that's on 93 octane gasoline. you would almost argue that that is a more impressive feat than me going 10.08, him going 10.17 with a car that weighs about 110 pounds more than mine does. Along with that, Mean Cat went a 971. That's a 285 upper on 93 octane with a little bit of gas insurance, but not tuned for it, just tuned for 93 octane. 285 car, here's the twist. All three of those cars are running stock catalytic converters. So my car with a 1008, stock catalytic converters. Orange Crush, stock catalytic converters. Mean Cat, stock catalytic converters. So for anybody that's saying, oh, if you took the cats off, it'd go faster. Guys, we've tried that. We did that dance. Can I tell you that the car went slower with the catalytic converters being removed? Not by a lot. I don't know, call it half a tenth. If you want to pick a number that doesn't sound big, call it half a tenth. That the car went slower by. That the car went slower by, and you couldn't attribute the car going slower necessarily with a change in DA. Just saying. The cats went back on the cars. The cars got quicker with the cats on. Hey, you know, when your theory doesn't play out in real life, change your theory. Don't try to make excuses for real life, right? So, but yeah, I wanted to bring that one up too, because that's one that I just love hearing about. If you took the cats off the car, and I'm going, you have no idea. First of all, it would sound like ass with the reso deletes, which doesn't give you any power. You picking up power with the reso deletes? No, I'm not. I'm picking up a visual that I wanted. I just don't like the look of the things on my car. I don't even notice the resonators on anybody else's car. Isn't that weird? I can see a sea of Hellcats parked at like that 3/4 sideways look. I would never see one of the resos. And I could pick my car out of the whole group and go, I can't stand it. Anyway, it's OCD thing. VA, thank you very much. Said, hey, B, what would you suggest as a launch RPM for a stock Scat Pack on stock wheels and MT Street SS's? He tried 1200 and only ran 1250s. Need to be about 1650, 1700, right around in there. I always launch those at 1700-ish. It's like clockwork. And depending on your DA, that will absolutely, on that wheel and tire setup, assuming you don't have a trunk full of bricks, you should be able to whittle that down quite a bit. What year is your Scat, by the way? I can almost tell you what it'll run in the DA. Let's see. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. But yeah, let me know what year your car is. Oh, hang on. Oh, sorry. Okay, I lost my place here. So let me catch back up with you guys. And we're going to start talking some tuning stuff here in just a second. So I'm saying, hey, we just finished watching your 1008 undercar. Thank you very much. Glad that's what I kind of sent me off into. Rick saying, I hope that Dodge is thinking about firing at least 3 guys and hiring you. So we're saying not was great. Yeah. So anyway, I tried, and I mean, I kind of butchered it up, and listen, but I wanted that. That's real life. That's real time, guys. I mean, I wanted that video to go out literally real life, real time. I'm showing you guys this. I'm trying to just say, look, if you want to do the same, want your car to do the same thing I'm doing with mine, here's what I've done with mine. If there's any questions, like I can't pull the bumper off the car to go, hey, stock bumper supports. Just, I'm telling you, I don't have any reason to put another bumper support on it because, again, I've got the rules that I'm trying to follow. So, not to mention they're expensive. How is it that it costs so much money to take something off your, I don't know, it blows my mind. Anyway, getting back to it. Summer saying better what I can do. I don't know. And that's something else too, guys. I typically will not watch videos that I post. I did watch that one briefly and immediately started feeling sorry for anybody that was going to watch it after that, and just said, okay, well, I nothing I can do about it now. So, Jay's asking, hey, B, did I hear you say you run 80 PSI in the Sportsman SRs? Yes, I do. Came in late. Congrats on 1008s. When's the nines? I don't know, man. I got to lose a lot of weight. I'm start mixing in a salad a lot more often. Yes, I do. Actually, I run 77 cold, and that's what I do. The SRs, I think, are rated, maximum load rating is at 90 PSI. The high pressure valves are typically 80 PSI cold, and I'll run them at 77 cold. And that works great with my setup. I've seen guys try to run them at 40 PSI and they look flat. And it's because they got about half the pressure that they need to have in them. Excuse me. John's asking, do you have to pull timing for your winter 93? I'm in Michigan. I have to pull a few degrees in late fall. No, I don't, because I literally just leave my tune alone. And, well, the fuel quality thing, I'll put it to you like this. I've been able to log fuel quality, and it's been really good. Knock sensor voltage looks really good. I haven't had any issue with fuel, provided that I buy from a top tier provider. Exxon and Shell are the first that would probably come to mind for you guys. In different parts of the world, you know, you'll know where your top tier brands are. BP, you know, the Valero for some guys. But if you go with a second tier, that can create some issues for winter grade. And that's why when I would data log my car, I will data log my car after I put fuel in it from a place that I'm not normally used to putting fuel into it, or if it's not from a true Exxon or a true Shell station, I'll check it. That's when I did the fuel test with Buc-ee's gas. Buc-ee's down here in Texas is like a big deal. It's a gas station, but it's a destination, okay? It's way more than just a gas station. Here's the thing. Their fuel is normally really good. Had a tank that just wasn't all that great. And so that's when I did the butane testing. Okay, I'm not going to tune for butane, but how would it work as far as gas insurance? You know, a couple of ounces. We're not talking mix it to like ounce per gallon to get it to 100 octane. No. When I did the testing, it was a couple of ounces. Actually, I think it was 3 or 4 ounces for a full tank of gas, 2 ounces for half a tank. And it actually made the problems go away. So it was basically being used as fuel insurance for that. But I don't ever change anything with the tune. Rick, thank you very much. Said I wanted to send you 1008, man. That's awesome. Thank you, buddy. So let me do this. Let me get you guys. So for you guys that have questions about timing and all of that, let me get you guys brought up to speed. Now, I've highlighted one of the rows here. It's going to mean really only something for you guys on the NA side. But let me show you what I'm talking about. First, I'm going to pull up an NA tune. This is what I want you guys to see. Notice this is a wide open throttle. It's just wide open throttle table. Here's what I want you guys to notice. So gather around the computer here. Here's what I want you guys to notice. Just pick the column, the 6,400 RPM or the 6,100 RPM column. Notice how the timing doesn't change all the way down on that table. Basically, it's like you're locking out the timing at the higher RPM. This is for an NA car, by the way. So when you're doing that, if you notice, there's not much of a drop, because if you look at the load, which is the air charge, the air charge only goes down to basically 1.0, or straight atmospheric pressure is what you want to think of with that. And there's not much of a change in timing there. That is to say that you could have a situation where you are in super low DA, you're still going to command your 14, in this case, 14 and a half degrees of timing at 6,100 RPM, for example. Let me show you what a boosted map looks like. You might be surprised. Now, this is where that highlighted row comes into play. And this is, guys, I'm illustrating for you why it is that it's not always better to have super low density altitude. So if you look, that row would be what you would consider to be where the NA table ends. See how the air charge is at 115, the one that I highlighted? Go above that, like, I don't know, pick one of the 5,000 RPM tables, because that's, you know, where things start really get interesting. Notice how none of those timing tables are any different. That is the equivalent. Notice how the table is just as big, but the air charge at that 1.0 is so much further up. It's because you only have a finite number of cells that you can work with on this table. So same thing applies here. Not much of a change in timing, but the lower you go on that air charge means the more air that car is bringing in. The more air it's bringing in means that it's going to become much more efficient, which means you have to have less timing, not more timing. So I'm going to highlight something here, and I want you to look at how fast the timing, it'll just start hemorrhaging timing once you start getting into, I'm just going to pull up 5600 because it's the first one that I literally clicked on. Remember with the NA car where it could basically keep the same timing? This thing is dumping timing. It's going from, what is that, 23? It's going from 23 and a half degrees of timing down to 13 and a half degrees of timing. It is dumping 10 degrees of timing. So you're asking yourself, well, what does that mean? Well, what it means is as air charge increases, you have to lower the timing because you have much more air getting into the cylinder, which means much more fuel going into the cylinder, which means a much more rapid expansion when that mixture is lit off. So you don't need as much timing because you have a very fast explosion, if you will, for lack of a better way of putting it. But if you can think of it like that, it'll give you a better visual, like a better visual in your head. But if you are hemorrhaging timing, then wouldn't you be hemorrhaging power? Well, this is a table that is set up, and it's set up to deal with 93 octane gasoline. If you can tune for maximum brake torque, that's a completely different story. Bear with me here. See if this old thing still has MBP. Control N is navigate, by the way. So we're going to pull up MBT Spark. Look how much higher MBT Spark is. Hang on. Look how much higher MBT Spark is. You might go, well, what's MBT Spark? What does that mean? It means maximum brake torque. In essence, if you could have a fuel that was completely unfazed by knock, then these would be the theoretical timing figures that you could run for maximum brake torque. Now, did you notice that they are eerily at the very bottom down there? Remember the one that was at, 23 and a half and it went to 13? See how all of those are still now around 21, 23 degrees of timing? Yeah. you are losing 10 degrees of timing in these very low air charges right down here. That's where your DA would have been for me the other night, or last night, not the other night. And my table is shoveling timing out of the way because I'm dealing with a fuel that can't really handle crazy density altitudes. I would be better off with an air charge instead of 150, which by the way is where this table caps out. That's 1.50 grams of air per second. You might hear guys talk about it in milligrams. It'd be 1,500 milligrams per second ingested. The point of this is that if the DA is crazy low and my table is yanking timing because it's worried that I'm going to run into knock because I'm running 93 octane gasoline, I've got one of two choices here. I can leave the tune alone, which is what I did with my car, and know that I've got good quality 93 octane. Cool. I can add Boostane to it. A couple of ounces is what I found works as far as fuel insurance, and not touch the tune and just make sure that I've got decent quality gasoline in the thing. Or you can tune for the Boostane or the race gas or the whatever fuel is in there. But at that point, it wouldn't really matter because I can't get anywhere near these MBT numbers with 93 octane and Boostane on any level. It would take something along the lines of E85, E90, maybe some of the race gas tunes, you could get close to it, but you wouldn't even be able to get to those types of numbers with Sunoco GT 260 or GT 260 Plus at 104. It just wouldn't work out that way. So I'm hoping that that illustrates something for you. Even the manufacturer said, yeah, no, there are areas where we know we have to yank out timing. When you start getting into super deep DAs and I'm dumping 3-4 degrees of timing to go from an air charge of 1.40 grams per second to 1.50, I am losing power. I am losing power production because it is airing heavily on the side of caution at that point. That's why guys go, if the DA is something, then you can run in another. And if the DA is this, and I can, yeah, that stuff works great. If you've got an NA car, which doesn't, you throw all the timing you can at it. Or if you've got a boosted car that is running a fuel that you can maintain timing with, or run at MBT timing and make all the powers, then yes, it makes a huge difference, the DA would. But for me, I get skittish whenever the DA drops below 1,000, negative 1,000. I'm super stoked if I see negative 500. That puts me in a great place in terms of timing because I know the timing and the fueling are going to be good. But you start getting super deep and it's like, crap, I'm going to be in a part of my tune that is dumping timing, so I'm actually maybe not going to run as quickly in the super deep DAs as I would with the better DAs. And again, or the lesser DAs. Keep in mind, my car went a 1010. I think it was a negative 300 with a fairly humid day. That will give you an idea in terms of what I was working with. The car's like, yeah, we can throw timing at this thing. It's working great. You get super dry air with a super low DA. I'm, in some cases, going literally off the chart in terms of air charge. That's where things can get a little bit spooky too. That's one of the reasons why that number is so low at that 1.50 grams per second range is you go off the chart. You don't want to be over-timed in those types of situations. So anyway, hopefully that helps you along the way to understand that. I'd be more than happy to go back over that in a minute if you need me to. X is in saying, what up? What up, man? And again, V8, thank you very much. Sorry, saying keep it mean, keep it green. Absolutely. Vortex saying Texas doesn't have a winter. We do. It's just sporadic and it takes about 2 weeks to get it done. Only good air season. True that, especially if you have an NA car. Sovereign saying, please guys smash that like button. Sub if you're new. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Oh, VA saying 2021 for his car. Yeah, that's actually got the that's badass. You're gonna love that. If you launch it with that setup, 1700 RPM in really clean air, you should be deep into the 11s. 1170, 1180 should not be a problem whatsoever, provided that you're not really heavily laden. Bob's saying launch control is useless, right? Absolutely, it's useless. What gear are you launching in? First gear. Sorry, saying don't say that. It was great talking about the video. Thanks, buddy. Thank you again, Rick. I appreciate it. Oh, Vortex saying, yeah, they have good 93 there. Yeah, we do. Sovereign's hanging out with Rick. Mike saying, hey guys, hey Mason, I hope you guys are having a good evening. Same to you. Is it normal for an oil cap on a 5.7 to get so tight that you need pliers to get it off, even if it was just hand tightened? No. Are you sure you're opening the oil cap, or is it the PCV? No, it should never act like that, ever. It just should pop right off. I can tell you the popping the PCV on a 6.4 is a nightmare, though. You will have to have pliers for that. By the way, how are you getting pliers on that thing? Like you would have to get, I mean, it's big. It's that big around. So, I mean, pliers, it'd have to be like a pipe wrench or something. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on with that, bud. Mean Cat's in saying, hey, B, congrats on the 1008. Amazing. Thank you, brother. So, again, y'all say congratulations to Mean Cat. My man went out there and people's elbowed his way into a 970 pass. Again, running 93 octane with a little gas insurance. Dude, that car puts a lot of people on the trailer. So, yeah, I mean, that's a sick setup on that car. Clean tune on that one. That is a Pikes tuned car, by the way. Rick's saying, hope everyone here is having a good weekend and ready for spring as I am. Man, I'll tell you what. I'm ready for some more nights like we had last night. Mean Cat, what do you say about that, brother? He's saying, hell of a night at HRP as usual. Fun times. Absolutely. We had a night where it was slicks and radials only, and that was real nice. Vortex saying, everybody in the spring's waiting, or everybody in the north is waiting for spring, for sure. Sauer saying, 5 for the live. Thank you, buddy. Saying, your work is appreciated by all of us, Professor B. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Ray saying, yeah, northeastern Ohio here. Plenty of snow right now. Man, I love Ohio. Ohio's beautiful. Sauer saying, thanks for smashing that like, guys. Yeah, for sure. Thank you all very much for hitting that like button up. Appreciate it, guys. He's saying, thanks. Sauer saying, congrats. Heck yeah. Mike saying, I'm guessing the O-ring is swelled since there's slight discoloration. Oh, discoloration is, yeah, could be. The same color as the ring inside of the filler neck. Might be. Might be. I might need to get a new ring for it. It should never be that tight. Someone saying, I can't wait for spring and summer that I dread the heat. Yeah, for sure on that. And again, Mean Cat's in. I definitely want to say congratulations to him on his passes. Definitely want to say congrats to Orange Crush as well, dropping that 1017 full interior. Again, that's, I mean, 1008's pretty sick, don't get me wrong, but dropping a 17, and that 17 is on the heels of a 19 too. That wasn't a fluke. Dropping that 17 is sick because it's a full interior car, again, down to the floor mats. We're talking about 100 pounds at least, if not 110-ish, maybe more pounds than a Chandalier. So, you know, that car's definitely putting in the work as well. Yours truly put the tune on that one. Actually, it's the same tune that's on Chandaliers on that car. Something else you got to remember, too, that Orange Crush, that car just makes some power from the word go. That car from the factory is pretty stout. So, Jay Casey's asking, on the blower cars, are the knock sensors under the Supercharger? No, they're right on the side of the block. Let's see. Meecat's asking, February 11th, the next Slick and Radial night. Can't wait for sure. That's true. Meecat's saying, yeah, Orange Crush is killing it. Yeah, it is. Orange Crush is really running good. Yeah, no, in fact, Jay, you wouldn't want them underneath the Supercharger. There's so much racket, they'd be going off like crazy. That's one of the reasons, by the way, kind of a trivia question when it comes to Lightnings, the old Ford Lightnings. They didn't have knock sensors. And so it was kind of crazy, you know, back in the day, tuning Lightnings, there was no knock sensors because of all the racket that the blower made. They didn't have knock sensors that were capable of basically drowning that out. So I'm saying, Dan, welcome to the club for sure. You guys up north are getting snowed on big time. But yeah, spring is where it's at for you guys up there. So again, I want to illustrate for you guys. Let me get out of the MBT Spark table here. Bear with me, y'all. Bring back that wide open throttle. Here we go. Wide open throttle table. Oh, hey. That was weird. Hold on. I'm having a computer situation down here. Bear with me just 1 second. The hell is that? There we go. There we go. Fixing the world's problems here. Okay, so again, to illustrate for you guys what I mean when I'm telling you that the thing is hemorrhaging timing. Again, I'm just going to pull 4,800 RPM up here. You got to remember, that's what you're losing as opposed to an NA where it's just going to hang on to that same timing value. And by the way, that's going to be like right at 1 gram per second air charge. Where you're going from, you know, 20, 22 degrees of timing down to 12. It's just dumping timing. And again, that will help you to understand why it's not always necessarily way better to have the super low DA for a boosted car. Yeah, it's better. It's obviously going to be really good in terms of air quality, but if you don't have the timing in the car, or because you don't have the fuel to, you know, be able to manage that that timing, then again, you can have a situation where you have a much lower density altitude and the car doesn't go any faster, and you're scratching your head going, why is that? I'm used to my NA car. Well, I'm used to my NA setup that you know, keeps the timing alive all the way through. Well, yeah, because you go to the same, I mean, obviously the air charge is going to be different, but the air charge is not going to change for an NA car. You're going from 12 to 11. You're only losing 1 degree of timing. Car might not even notice it. Look how much you go all the way up there, you know, low air charges at the same RPM. It's going to be giving it a lot more timing. But the main thing you're looking at is in higher load areas, and it's not going to lose out on timing because it's naturally aspirated. Whereas the supercharged stuff, it's compressing the atmosphere. You get better atmosphere, it will multiply that when it compresses it. So that's the reason for it. So yeah, NA guys, absolutely can't wait for super low DA. The lower the better. Boosted guys, yeah, it's better provided that you've got fuel that can handle that super low DA. Rick's hanging out with Dan. Rick saying, hey, B, is direct connection going to go on after the Henny cars are gone? That is a great ass question. I wish I could answer it. I know this, and you guys know this too. They're talking about a 2-year thing. I don't understand that, but I would hope that they're going to keep it going on. And listen, there's a lot of talk right now, and I did the video about the potential for the NA guys, the stage kits for the NA guys. I don't know what that's going to include, but I would like to see that carry forward. The low-hanging fruit really is the supercharged stuff, because anything you do to a car with a supercharger, or turbos for that matter, or anything, has absolutely nothing to do with, because you don't put a different cam in the car, has nothing to do with idle quality, idle emissions, cruise emissions. None of that is affected by going with a super tiny itty bitty blower pulley or any of that. It wouldn't be affected because it's not under load. Well, I should say not under a significant enough load to cause it to go rich. Which is like a whole different argument with some people saying, well, small motors or small engines, and I know motor engine thing, guys get like OCD over that, but small engine, turbo gets way better fuel economy. Yeah, the second you tip into the throttle to do anything, though, it goes full rich. And anyway, there's a lot of people that'll argue that small engines are not necessarily better when it comes to fuel economy. I did a test with that. We only had the 2.3 EcoBoost. What was it, a Flex or whatever? Anyway, one of these small little rental car things I ended up getting, and it was a blast to drive, but it got horrible fuel economy. A lot of that horrible fuel economy came from the fact that I was constantly in it to win it. But yeah, even without that little 4-cylinder wasn't getting all that great of fuel economy, because anytime you tipped into the throttle to make the thing move, it would apparently go full rich. So there's that. That's been several years ago, though. Michael's asking, when can of fuel will be good for the can of DA? What can of fuel will be good for, what kind of, I think you're trying to say what kind of fuel would be good for that kind of DA. Top tier 93 octane, man. That's all you really need, provided that that's what your tune is calling for. And that the person tuning your car isn't trying to get too aggressive with it. Now then, if the question is, when should you throw in some Boostane, for example, for fuel insurance, you don't tune for the Boostane, first of all. To do it, to be prudent, you want a hot rod, but you want the hot rod to live a long time. Don't tune it for the Boostane. Just use it for fuel insurance. Couple of ounces for half a tank of gas, 4 ounces for a full tank of gas. That's really the max that you need to make sure that the fuel that you have is good. In my testing, that breakdown, that 2 ounces for half gallon or for half a tank, basically 2 ounces for 5 or 8 gallons, 4 ounces for 12 to 18 gallons. That was enough to chill my knock sensors out under high load data logging. And as a matter of fact, I'd have to go back and pull the logs, but one of the things that I noticed was that I didn't have to go any more than that. Just a little dab will do you. Putting more Boostane into the tank had no greater net effect on chilling out knock sensors, in essence, and mitigating knock in general. I didn't have to go any harder than that. So, yeah, I'm dealing with a fuel quality that wasn't all that great. Again, this goes back in that video I was talking about. I have literally deleted so many data logs that were just nothing but fuel data logs. Well, one of the things I was testing with it, a lot of it had to do with transmission tuning, but there was also fuel data logs, a bunch of really unsexy things that I ended up doing with this car because I wanted to learn, okay, well, look, if I get gas at Exxon, I know it's going to be really good. I almost take it for granted at this point. But what if I get gas at Buc-ee's? Or what if I get gas or have to get gas at a Kroger gas station? What is that fuel going to look like? What kind of quality am I really looking at? Well, if it's just there to get me from point A to point B, and I'm not going to go racing with it, I'm not worried about that part of it, then I'm not really going to be concerned. It's only under high load conditions that you would see there to be a problem. Anyway, to answer the question, what DA would I recommend fuel insurance? I think is really the overall value of the question. I just took that and kind of went around my ass to get to my elbow on this. Zero. At zero DA or lower, so negative DA, I would say it's probably a good idea to mix in a couple of ounces of Butane if you're worried about fuel quality and where you're getting your fuel. If you don't have the ability to data log your car, or you really don't know what to look for and you're kind of confused by the whole process, look, here's a better way to do it. If that's the case, and if you got to put on a jacket, you can see your breath, put in a couple of ounces for every half tank of Butane just to ensure that you've got decent fuel quality. If you feel better putting 3 ounces for half a tank and 6 ounces for a full tank, that's okay too. Because again, I've got 93 octane here. If you've got 91, it might be a good idea to go the extra ounce. Oh, per half tank. By the way, so when we're talking about fuel quality, it's interesting because there is it's like assumed on my end that you're working with 93 octane. But one of the things that's weird is that your stock tune, which by the way, that's what I'm showing you guys here. It's a stock Hellcats. Actually, it's Chandelier's read file, her very first ever read file. The interesting thing is the fueling for Hellcats is nuts. Oh, by the way, if you ever noticed, another trivia thing for you, if you ever notice that your air fuel, or technically fuel air on the tuning side, but your air fuel meter always seems off. Like, why does it say that I'm at 13.8 cruising down the highway? And it's showing to be lambda, which is funny because it's not reading in lambda, it's reading in air fuel ratio, which is different. Anyway, it's got a lambda symbol there. The reason why it's 13.8 is because your Hellcat or your Scat Pack or anything else that you've got that would have that gauge built into the system, unless it's been changed, has the ability to read from gasoline, which is 14.7, all the way down to E15, which was a proposed fuel at the time. So instead of E10, which is what your gasoline is expected to be at most, 10% ethanol, there is also in some cases, some areas of the world may have this, gasoline that is 15%. That 15%, oddly enough, falls right in line with what that 13.8 is reading. So it's technically not reading incorrectly. It just seems to be reading correct for E15. So there you have it. Trivia question. But when we're talking about fueling, the Hellcat is weird. Actually, all of the Hellcat variants, whether it's the Hellcat, the Red Eye, Demon, whatever, kind of weird with how they fuel the cars because they're incredibly lean. So if you have a stock Hellcat, I would still recommend Butane. And I would recommend Butane more for a stock Hellcat than a tuned Hellcat, to be honest with you. Just because your fuel air or air fuel ratio, the way that you would hear it, is 12.7. Actually, it's 12.77 for a Hellcat and for a Red Eye. And even though it's got aggressive knock sensor settings and it's not really throwing the kitchen sink at it in terms of timing, that's a pretty lean mixture. So just know that coming into the conversation. Gary, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Wow, that's huge. Saying I'm about to make a buy at Doc Differential for the high roller cam. Very nice. As per his recommendation on my future goals, what is your thoughts on that cam for an M6 2020 Scat with 12-to-1 pistons, BMAX imported intake, or custom by you. So that is a custom grind from me. And let me take a look at, bear with me. Those are proprietary to Dr. Differential and Speed. It's a good cam. High roller is, so all of the names for the camshafts that he has some, it's actually kind of funny. There's like a lot of different meanings for that cam. And the high roller, it's not a huge cam if you're used to LS stuff, but it can be pretty racy for guys that are not necessarily used to this type of a cam for one of these cars. It's a good cam. It's going to hit pretty hard. And I can tell you this, it's about as big of a cam as I would recommend for that car, for the LX platform. I've got larger cams than that, but the high roller seems to be kind of a go-to for him for what is in essence really good for the street, especially from a roll. So high RPM and high roller for roll racing, and high roller, it's a gamble. Are you sure you really want to go that big? It's a good cam though. It sounds really good. It's mean as hell. And it's good for making horsepower as well. So get ready because she's going to be rowdy. I'll tell you that right now. Kobe, thank you very much, buddy. Direct Connection says for Hellcat, it'll add 5 degrees of timing. Is that good? You're doing all the good love. Love your tips. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. We'll get to that here in just a second. But yeah, Gary, so thank you again, man. I appreciate that. So it's going to work out really well. I mean, you've got 12-to-1 setup, a ported intake. This cam will do well with the ported intake. 12-to-1 compression, it's good. You can definitely take more advantage of the cam with the more compression that you can run. The thing about this cam is it's going to make that engine act a lot like an LS, though. It's going to want to rev for sure, even with a long runner intake. Some porting, larger throttle body is definitely going to help. It's going to start getting real efficient around 3,800 RPM. And after that, get ready, hang on, because it's my understanding that thing pulls like a banshee on the big end. So, yeah, I think you're definitely going to like it. Again, a little bit on the big side for what I would consider to be a little bit on the big side in terms of what like a Gen 3 Hemi, but definitely well worth it in terms of making horsepower. The whole package together will do really good. Chuck saying, holy crap, buy him a beer for sure. But thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate that a ton. Hopefully that helps, like, steer you or let you know what to look forward to. He's got a car that's got the high roller in it. He probably talked to you about it. It's a white wide body scat pack. It's got that. He may have put a supercharger on that thing at this stage of the game. I don't know what kind of power it's making, but this would be a nasty cam if you decided you wanted to put nitrous or a supercharger on it. This cam would do really well with that. It's going to help to extend RPM a little bit on the backside of the chart. So with that 114, a lot of my cams, I like to try to focus on a little bit tighter lobe separation angles, but on this cam, a 114 works really well. Any wider than that, and it starts to get real piggish down low. But yeah, not knowing what your future plans are, again, if you're planning on going boost, that cam's going to be sick with that setup. Let's see. Bear with me here. Oh, Gary's saying, sorry if I don't reply on the move as I watch mailing out the intake be ported this week. Very cool. Thank you again, buddy. Man, I really do appreciate it. Rick's saying, nice money. Hell yeah. Thumbs up. Yeah, and I'm assuming you're getting one of his throttle bodies, which I highly suggest. That's what I port the intakes to, by the way, or his 85 millimeter. You may have seen it. I'll grab the one that I use. All right. So solid billet. You see how that bad boy looks. But this is the actual throttle body that I use when I am porting the intakes. And what I do is I mount it. So I'll actually mount the thing to the intake manifold and I'll mark it. You'd be surprised, by the way, just how much core shift and how much inconsistency there can be in those manifolds. And the reason why I mount this and mark it on the throat is because I've seen some fairly significant wavering. Like you can't just go in and make the hole bigger and then stick a throttle body on there and expect it to match. You literally have to match those manifolds to the throttle body that you're going to be using. Anyway, that's what it's going to look like. Throttle body. And I'm pretty sure you've seen some of the either videos or go to the Instagram page. It's been a while since I've done any of the manifolds, but I typically start off the year, January, February-ish. I may do a couple. March is like January, February, March is when I like to do the manifolds. I don't like doing them after that. I just end up not really having time, but I will usually make time the first part of the year to try to knock out manifolds when I can. And Michael, hopefully I answered your question. What kind of fuel would be good for that kind of DA? Again, the best you can find around you in terms of octane and really deep DAs, a couple of ounces per half tank. And if you've got, 91, then go 3 per half tank. Some are saying, even if eventually Dodge can't sell internal combustion engines, direct connection is still a moneymaker. Believe me, it will be and can be because it still appeals to the mod fans. Not everybody is thrilled about electric. It's a good point. Not everybody is not only thrilled about electric, there's a lot of people that can't electric. Do you live in an apartment complex? Can't electric. What if your house, you got to rewire your house to charge the thing? That might not be good. Multiple users of the car. Somebody takes it to work at night. Somebody takes it to work in the morning. Can't really electric. There's a lot of reasons why carpooling might not be able to electric is easy. What about where you work? You can't charge it necessarily. There's a lot of folks that would love an electric car. It just doesn't fit the narrative of their life. That's gasoline. If the electric fits the narrative of your life, yay, great, get one. They're great. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't. It doesn't have to be a thing. It's just, does it work for you? Oh, it does? Cool. Consider it as an option. Oh, it doesn't work for you? That's too bad. You liked it, but it doesn't work out for you. Keep going with what you know. Works out great. Jay's asking a good question. At what point should you be looking at a 15-inch conversion? If your car is about to start running, if your plans for your car, I should say, will have your car running 920s, but you will be running in the 8s. That's about the time I would start looking at a 15-inch conversion, primarily so that you get the footprint and the wrinkle wall of that 15-inch tire. In other words, that taller tire on a 15-inch rim. When you need to go above a 315 45 17, legit have to go that big because you're running into so many issues on the launch, that's when you want to start looking at the switch. Now, if you're a 305/45 setup, that 305/45 is known to be consistent deep into the nines, at 960, 950-ish range. Anything faster than that might need to move to a 315/40. That's that 970, 960, 950, 940 range. You start getting much quicker than that, and your window is going to start to close. And so realistically, eights, yeah, get you a 15-inch conversion. Super low nines probably still get away with the 315/45, 17. So for you guys that are new to the channel, yes, the shop is very near Velocicito. Velocicito is open for business this evening as it is a very pretty night. So you may hear that from time to time. Those are our friends going out to make sure that their cars are nice and aired out properly. So anyway, hopefully that answers the question. Eights, you'd almost, I wouldn't say you consider it mandatory, but you probably would want to look into it. But low nines is about where you're going to start to think seriously about a 15-inch conversion. Some are saying hole in the wall gas, for sure. Trademark that. Gary Payne's in saying hello. Gary saying, got to leave soon from work to work. Gotcha. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Thank you again for the contribution. That's a huge contribution, buddy. Thank you very much. I truly, honest to goodness, can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And you're going to love the setup that you get. I mean, like I say, I can't show the specs because they are proprietary. But I've got a number of cams that I put together for Dr. Diff that work really well. From mild to what have I done? That's what I've put together. So, I'll put it together, a picture like this. The only cam that's bigger than the one that you're getting is the one that I put together for stroker motors. And that's it. Sorry, I'm looking at this deal and it's like, oh yeah, I was actually playing with numbers, putting cams together. Jay, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that, buddy. I really, truly appreciate it. Thank you. Man, thank you all very much. I so very much appreciate it. Thank you. Got the pair. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Much respect. Oop, lost it here. Hilton's asking, is it worth porting the 5.7 truck intake manifold? Man, all I can tell you about is this on that manifold. The top of it is funny. It's like, it's weird looking. Anyway, the top part of that manifold, it just goes like this. Like if it just goes and like that and goes in. The throttle body sticks straight up in the air and the air just kind of turns like this and goes into the manifold. What I do when I port those is I open up that throat and I try to reshape a little bit on its way down and into the manifold. There's only so much you can really do there, but it dumps right into the plenum. So in that respect, the truck manifold don't suck. And then obviously going in and cleaning up the runners, it just depends on how much casting flash you have in the runners as to how much of a gain you're going to get. I've seen some pretty nasty truck manifolds, but interesting. Oh, here's some Mopar trivia for you. You would think that the runners would be the same for the 5.7, the 5.7 truck. They're not in terms of the size. 5.7 truck's actually bigger. And interestingly, and I can tell you that because I have to use different cartridge rolls when I go in and start sculpting I can go in about, 6 inches into the runner with the rat tail. And when I'm porting those, when I'm smoothing those transitions, I have to switch bits. As I'm flipping the thing around, I have to switch bits. The 6.4 car manifold and the 6.4 truck manifold have the largest actual runners themselves. And again, I'm just going off of, I'm the guy in there, taking material out of there, and I know what tools I have to use to make all that work. So anyway, is it worth it? Again, so here's what y'all need to know about porting NA manifolds. What you're doing is you are blueprinting the manifold. You are making it to where that manifold flows the way that the engineers who designed it intended. The manifolds, the trucks for sure. The cars, not so much because they don't have the variable runners. But you've got 3 pieces that have to come together and not scooch around, not move around, not have any core shift, and be straight. You've got a bottom and mid where the actuators are basically for the runners. And then the top part all kind of clams together. And I apologize for not having a manifold to show you guys. What can happen is you'll get casting flash in there where the adhesive was, and you just have to take some of that out, and intrudes into the runners. Old LS manifolds were bad about that back in the day. So, like LS2 manifolds, you pick up 15 horsepower with some of those things. As much casting flash was in those polymer manifolds. So, by the way, yes, this is sucking down some C-Force water, the old Chuck Norris water. Anyway, so is it worth it? It depends on the shape that your truck manifold's in. Again, consider it a supporting mod. How much power are you going to pick up with it? Tough to say. It really is tough to say, but I can tell you that it certainly doesn't hurt anything. And, I know that on the 6.4 cars, I've seen 6, 7. I don't know if that came over on the audio, but whatever that was, that sounded really good, real healthy. Anyway, Squirrel, if you take it like this, the most I've ever been able to extract out of any port that I've ever done was 13 horsepower, and that was across the board. But that was for a manifold that was so jacked up that it should have been considered a manufacturer's defect. It was core shifted. How do I explain this? The top portion of it was core shifted to the back, I think as far as you could possibly have core shifted it. Think of a core shift of like 1/8 of an inch. It's a lot with a core shift like this. But that was like seams, the throat was jacked up, the whole thing. It was just really bad. And I was able to get 13 horsepower out of that thing. For a real clean one, maybe 6 across the board, 7 across the board, but better partial throttle response. It's a good supporting mod. I would say if you're going to be doing a build, probably a good idea to get your manifold ported. You should see the amount of material that comes out of some of those manifolds. It's pretty crazy. Rick's out saying, see you soon. See you, Rick. How it going, buddy? Always happy to be in the Mopar chat. Always happy to have you, buddy. Thank you. Oh, Michael's saying you did answer my question. Thank you. Cool. Hopefully I answered it. You got any more? Feel free to ask, brother. Sovereign said, electric is just not prevalent enough to be practical for the masses. Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios where electric just does not fly. Sovereign saying, Dr. Differential, shout out. Sovereign saying, awesome, Jay. Thank you, buddy. Yep, Sovereign saying 27 viewers and 27 likes. Thank you for smashing that like button. Absolutely, Sovereign. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, y'all smash that like button. Smash the like button, hit the bell. Here's something, man, I don't know why it is, and it happens to me too, guys. Channels that I'm subscribed to, I never get any notifications that they're on. I don't know how that works. I've hit the bell, I've got the subscribe, and I still never get anything. It's weird. I have to go hunting for it. So I'm typically on here Tuesdays and Saturdays. I've changed up a little bit. I might be doing regular videos more often, and like as a supplement to the live show, but I'm typically on the live show on Saturdays, unless I'm doing a race event or something like that. Something else is going on. I'm typically on Saturdays, and also try to get on Tuesdays. Tuesday, I'm probably going to be doing a shorter show on Tuesdays, and like 45 minutes to an hour max, and then the Saturday show will go like an hour and 15 to an hour and 30 to 2 hours max. Some are saying, at Chuck, that's a great question. Certainly hope so. Oh, missed it. Chuck saying, where do you think Mopar will be in 4 years? I should be able to get a Hellcat, right? Probably low miles used. Oh yeah, for sure. It's the same that you would expect. I mean, the market is going to drive this more than anything. I know there's a lot of politicized things that are out there, but the market has shown that the Hellcat is and will remain to be a viable platform for as long as they keep making it. The thing is this is what sucks, man. Okay, so the Hellcat's blessing is its curse. And I mean the Hellcat, not the Red Eye, not the Demon. I'm talking the Hellcat here. The Hellcat is the yardstick that people will still use to say, okay, well, is it faster than a Hellcat? Talking about quarter-mile performance. The problem is the Hellcat, which gave birth to the Demon, which gave birth to, in essence, its twin brother, the Red Eye. The problem is that it is at the end of what you can. Remember, we're talking about fueling, right? So let's. What the hell? Hold on. Pull this bad boy back up, because this thing just, my computer got a sense of humor this evening. So remember what we were talking about with the timing tables. So it does that. You're hemorrhaging timing because your fuel can't manage the power that you would try to make if you could throw the timing at it. Well, what are the fixes for that? Well, E85, flex fuel compatible stuff from Dodge. Why is it not there already? I have no idea. You want to talk about stage kits, make the thing E85 compatible, and already you're going to pick up 50 horsepower, some of these boost levels. Anyway, the idea is this: to go any faster than, and to make any more power than really where we're at in a warrantable scenario, you have to have a better fuel. You have to use a fuel that will allow you to run the timing values like what we were talking about earlier when I was showing you the MBT timing tables. You have to be able to run a timing value like that to make the power to take advantage of the fuel to max out that combination. To get any more power, you'd have to run more boost, have a bigger engine, use a different kind of boost like turbos, which is more efficient, or all of the above. Well, you start running a lot of roadblocks at that point. And quite frankly, electrics are just that much faster with far, far less headaches from the engineering point of view. It's just easier to put together electric combinations than it is even when you have pre-existing Hellcat platforms to just keep running that out there. If you want to make more power, unfortunately, electrics do that a lot easier, and there's no EPA to mess with. You just make it, and it goes really fast. And there's kind of no downside from an engineering standpoint. It's, hey, we've got this new neat powertrain. Instead of burning gasoline, it burns electricity, and it goes super duper fast, and we can have this infinite control over torque management and everything else. That's why they are going that way. So where do I see Dodge in 4 years? Probably re-upping their position with Brampton to keep making a legacy car like the Challenger or the Charger, probably the Hellcat variants, or at least a Hellcat variant, I would think. Maybe a 392, maybe not. Maybe a 5.7, maybe not. Maybe the new car, the not legacy, the not classic, could use the new inline turbo 6-cylinder, which would be nasty, by the way. Somebody like me gets a hold of something like that. Oh my God. Because I love inline sixes, especially boosted ones. But why would you like that? V8. Yes, because it's not a V8 and because they sound like a whoopee cushion. That's why I like them. They make me smile. They make me laugh. Plus, you can get some pretty good power out of them. But I think the main thing that you got to look at is, where will Mopar be? At the forefront of performance. No matter how you want to shake it, Mopar will be at the forefront of performance because that's their marketing. That's why Stellantis bought FCA, bought the branding for Dodge. It's because it is the performance brand. And it's, to be honest with you guys, it's the only performance brand that's being marketed as an American performance muscle car brand. And I know, say what you want. You got half the car made in Canada, the other half of the car is made in Mexico. Well, it's all still North America. How about that? So, but it is an American muscle car by the standard of the definition. So, man, where are they going to be as far as powertrain? We'll see. And I'm hoping they're going to be at the top of the list when it comes to these EVs and the EV muscle, the e-muscle that's coming out, what they're calling it. When you've got products like the Riven or the Riven, however you say it, the Tesla, which is always at the front, the other one, the 1111 horsepower contraption. When you have cars that are able to run mid-nines with cold batteries, 10-second quarter mile times as well, and all you got to do is just plug the thing in and fill her up at the house. Notice that's pretty presumptuous that I would even mention the house. Like, you have to have a house to be able to afford these things, or at least you have to have a house to be able to charge these things, provided you can afford the car. Better way to put that. They'll be somewhere at the top of that list. I'm hoping that there's going to be some kind of a legacy thing, and maybe we'll have a Hellcat or whatever, but I don't know. We'll see. I have to shake my crystal magic 8-ball for that one. See, got some guys hanging out. Summer Night said, Hellcat just sounds badass, period. If you're not familiar with the F6F Hellcat, the airplane that the Hellcat was named after, it was absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect name. If you're going to name a car after a warbird, you got the Lightning, which is named after the P-38, the Mustang, which obviously P-51, the Thunderbolt, which was the P-47 Thunderbolt. But the Hellcat for the LX platform is historically accurate. So to give you guys like a quick rundown, F6F naval plane really got popular in 1944 and 1945. Used the Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp, dual stage supercharger, just like the Corsair. The P-47 used the same engine, but it had a turbo as well. Anyway, had the highest kill ratio, which is accurate because Hellcats have an extremely high kill ratio. In other words, number of times they won a race or won a fight versus number of times they lost. They were shaped like a freaking barge. I mean, they're shaped like a barrel, not very aerodynamic. One thing that they do is they they had a whole lot of horsepower, had a really good climb rate, had a really good roll rate. But anyway, it was just aptly named because it is a short, it's just a fat, heavy looking airplane that happens to haul pretty good ass and had a really awesome kill ratio. So anyway, when I remember I heard you call it the Hellcat, and I went, like F6F, it's perfect for that car. So anyway, if you ever get bored, look up the airplane. It's actually a cool ass airplane. Probably not the sexiest thing to look at. Oh, a fun fact on the Hellcat. F6F was the first airplane that the Blue Angels flew. So there's that too. Followed up by the Bearcat. Anyway, but first Blue Angels airplanes were all Hellcats. Let's see. Oh, Sovereign saying, well, for electric, there will be things like wire gauges and being sufficient to carry the current without catching on fire. Yeah, the big thing you can do with the electric stuff is capacitive discharge, which would be the equivalent of electric nitrous, and torque management settings, which is throw more torque at the wheels from a dead stop. So you start playing with those metrics, and yeah, you could end up with something that is sick to death, but it would take some freaking wrist thick wires to do it the right way. Someone's saying Dodge means business for sure. And saying no matter where it's made, it still says Dodge, and it embodies the legacy of the founding brothers. That, and you know, look, it's a performance brand. It does performance stuff, and it has a reputation to uphold, if nothing else, that goes back decades upon decades, all the way back to when Dodge first started building cars, started out as an engineering, in engineering for Ford of all things, and branched out on their own. I mean, I don't think anything Dodge has ever put together wasn't some kind of a hot rod, at least at some level, at some point. Chuck saying, hopefully they won't price gouge the super stock like they have the Demon. Well, Chuck, I hate to break this to you, but it's already kind of there. Rift is saying, I'm getting around the same time as you at the track with a 270 upper on ethanol with supporting mods. Do you think I'm losing a lot of time because I do not have bead locks on my drag pack? The only way you can answer that, and I don't have my chalk here or my grease pen, you got to mark the tires. And if you're getting a whole lot of rim rotating inside that tire, then yeah, you're going to definitely want to get some bead locks for that thing. But also, I mean, I did kind of luck into some really good air. But yeah, just mark the tires. And if you see that your rim is spinning a lot inside that tire, probably going to be a bit of a problem for you. Might have to go to that bead lock setup. Sovereign saying, yep, the plane. Yep. Sovereign saying he loves the P-38. That's a good looking thing. The fork-tailed devil. Yeah, the 38. 38's a good looking plane. Interesting though. A lot of people say, well, why did they stick with the Allison with the P-38? What about the Merlin? You could have thrown a lot more power at the thing. And the reason for that is already super expensive airplane. There were some talks about seriously hot rodding the Allison the way that the guys were hot rodding the Allison in the P-40s. A lot of guys don't know that the P-40 actually had some really hot Allisons in them. 70 inches of manifold pressure. All kinds of really cool stuff they used to do with the 40s. It got maligned for some reason, but the thing was actually disgusting when in the right hands, especially the Aussies. They had a nasty habit of throwing the kitchen sink at those things. Sovereign saying capacitors can melt a screwdriver if shorted across the leads. That's some serious current. Yeah, and what I was saying about the capacitors is I would set them up, make them look like flux capacitors. And, a deal where you charged them up, it basically hit a button and get controlled, but very fast discharge of the electricity over a specific amount of time, over and above what the primary batteries can give you. And yeah, but basically use it like electric nitrous. Oh, Chuck saying the Germans could have The Germans could have done a lot of nasty stuff if they had the raw materials. They just didn't. They got starved out of that. And if Hitler didn't invade Russia, big mistake. But yeah, I don't know. As somebody who was a docent at an aircraft museum, which was so much fun, I was trading time for flight hours at that point. But I was the engine specialist. So yeah, Warbird stuff was always a real big hit. Guys like talking about that. There's a lot of really cool AV motors though. The Hall Scott engines, if you're an engine dork like me, Hall Scott, big ass Hemi engines from literally well over 100 years ago, 110, 120 years ago. Running, 5-to-1 compression and that was a high compression, by the way, for then. Huge cylinder. I mean, it was literally a hemispherical cylinder that gear-driven overhead cams actually had a prop shaft that went from the crankshaft to the overhead cam. And it's an overhead cam, literally over the head. It was mounted. It was really cool stuff. Work of art more than anything. Steampunk like you wouldn't believe. But crazy low compression. But that's why they were all that's why they all had hemispherical heads. And low RPM, but lots of piston speed because they had very long strokes. So one of the things is, well, how do you get air into the cylinder? It's naturally aspirated. How do you get air into the thing? Why didn't they use a wedge head? Well, they didn't use a wedge head because they didn't want the compression. They couldn't have the compression. And so what you ran into was a situation where you needed something that had a ton of volumetric efficiency, and you weren't really concerned about thermodynamic efficiency when you set the thing off. Set timing to whatever, you've got a twitchy ass fuel that wants to just knock and pre-ignite on its own. Low compression, lots of volumetric efficiency. Don't worry about thermodynamic efficiency. When the thing comes up to around 40 degrees before top dead center, set it off, let it do its thing, and it does just great. So anyway, little Hall Scott for you. Don't get a chance to talk about that too much. But all good stuff. But yeah, some homework for you guys. Check that stuff out. But again, I want to talk about the stuff with running the 1008's awesome. Again, don't forget about Orange Crush running the 1017. That's equally as impressive because that car is full interior down to the floor mats. So 1017, I went 1008. Mean Cat went a string of deep 970s, all basically running on 93 octane. You can't get any better than that. Again, the lesson for the day, we were talking about timing, and with supercharged applications, how you hemorrhage timing as your air charge goes up. So again, that's the lesson for today on your tuning with Brian. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about that was why super low density altitudes, although it sounds sexy, especially if you have the fuel to be able to manage the very low density altitudes and the very high air charge. But the main thing, I think I showed you the wrong one just there. Yeah, that was the NA one. Sorry about that. Hit the wrong button. This is where you're just hemorrhaging timing. And again, it's because your air charge is increasing. You lower the timing accordingly. Thing is if you have, you can see you're going from 14 to 12 and a half. You're going from 20 to 19 to 17 and a half, 60. Literally for it's actually not a huge jump in air charge. You're dumping 1.5 degrees of timing. I'll put it to you like this. You're dumping the equivalent of the amount of timing. This is good for you guys that have stuck around for this long. You're dumping the equivalent of the same amount of timing that you would kill in an MSD 6 BTM. You guys remember that, old school guys? This is going to I can already hear the bells going off in your head. That 1.5 degrees or degree of timing that you're losing is what you pull per pound of boost In the old school 6 BTM setup, and it's boost timing management or boost timing masters is what that BTM stands for. And it's a dial. And let's say you have 10 pounds of boost. For every pound of boost, you would drop, it could be a degree and a half, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, whatever. I don't even know why they went that high, but they did. And so you could. So think about that. This is, in essence, the equivalent. Even though you're making 10 pounds of boost, you're dumping a degree and a half, another degree, a degree and a half as the air charge drops. So it's like having a variable boost management, a boost timing manager, I should say, better stated, that is seeing the amount of boost that you're making and going, instead of going, oh, okay, we're cool with that, which is how the old school setup worked. It's, oh yeah, we're making 10 pounds of boost, but it's not just 10 pounds of boost, it's 10 pounds of boost at a higher barometric pressure, and it's a 10 pounds of boost at a higher barometric pressure at a lower, or I should say a higher air charge with a lower density altitude. Yeah, we got to pull even more timing. So it's, in essence, also the same as pulling the same amount of timing that you pull for, that's right, every 50 horsepower for a nitrous kit. Back in the day, that's how it worked. A degree to a degree and a half for every 50 horsepower on dope. So hopefully that little nugget helps you out along the way too. Let's see. Oh, Chuck's hanging out with Sovereign. Let's see. Chuck said, I wish the drag pack Challenger was street legal. Well, it depends on how you actually define street legal. Say a small fuel cell and awful Mopar guy won't get you far. Yeah, don't forget, you got to run that thing on C16, I think is what they run it on. These guys are hanging out. I love it. So anyway, hopefully that stuff helps you out. Hopefully that gives you something to work with. And with that, if y'all don't have any more questions, I'm going to wrap it up. Kind of got off topic a little bit, but I wanted to bring us back around to that 1008, the conditions and all of that stuff. So with that, guys, I'm going to end it. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys. Thank y'all for the contributions, guys. It means the world to me. It really does. Could not, would not do this without you. Love each and every one of you. Thank y'all again. Y'all been a huge part of my success. So want to thank you guys for helping me meet this goal of running a 10.0 something on 93 octane with this little 2015 Hellcat sitting out there. Just thank y'all so very much. And with that, if you're going to send it, don't bend it, keep her shiny side up. Get out there and do something cool for somebody. Ray, miss and love you, brother. And with that, that is a wrap. Y'all have a great one, and we will catch y'all on the next one. Adios.